That title changed. Programs Manager. And we also have Eric Odor, who's the Secretary General for Kenya Union of Journalists. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us this morning. And welcome. Now, starting with what we've just seen and what we've had. Now, devolution is a pillar of the Constitution 2010. And looking at, well, today we're going to have all 47 governors, hopefully by end of day, sworn in. And this is the second term of the county governments basically taking place. Your thoughts on how we have covered the story of devolution, breaking it down to the people and ensuring that they fully understand the difference between national government and county government. Victor?
Thank you, Mike. One, in the formative stages, there was quite some serious coverage by media. I remember Media Council did 2 studies on media coverage of devolution 1 and 2. And quite some work was done in the first 2 years of our county governments, where media really helped in helping people access information on the various functions of the devolved units. Remember, the County Government Act of 2012 requires county governments to actively use media to share what they are doing on behalf. But going later, I mean, and we'll discuss this maybe, is that at some stage in 2, 3, the last 1 or so years, I think maybe also because of elections or related, we started a bit of PR for governors largely. And in one of the studies we are doing even currently, there's a study we have just finished in the 23 counties of how media is covering devolution, is that we start seeing where media coverage gets limited to governors. And we even start seeing that even as you go to the counties, the offices called directors of public communication, that most of the people employed to help in terms of, they are called governor's press service or something, that they are limited to what governors are doing. So that the coverage of what county, for example, county assemblies are doing, the kind of laws they are passing, the kind of other, the CECs, the COs, what they are doing is not covered. So that it has been very difficult that communication in counties is very centered around governors and what they are doing. So you see even like the Standard newspaper, like Nation newspaper, they have pages dedicated to devolution, actually, some pages, which was quite, encouraging that media would dedicate space simply because I remember even KTN, you had those editions on counties covering.
Right.
So that was very, so the intention is there, but at some stage, I think we came and limited the coverage of devolution to what governors are doing, which denied Kenyans information in terms of knowing what other things are happening. Even if you look at some of the inaugurations, the ceremonies, you see even some of what we are covering and what governors are promising, some of them running, like you said, for second term, is what they had said. Nobody is asking, I mean, maybe we'll see it might be too early. Maybe we'll see engagement with the media, with the governors in terms of what the governors are promising and what they had promised in their first term and what they achieved and not achieved. But I hope something will be done.
All right, Eric, do you agree that possibly we've limited the coverage to governors as opposed to the function, the office rather than the function?
Yes, I totally agree with Victor that when we started, the media was actually focusing more of what's happening in the counties, what the county governments are supposed to be doing, what are the devolved functions that actually are supposed to be taken up by the county governments. However, along the line, actually the county governments actually now became a biggest threat to press freedom. Because now most of threats actually that we are now receiving are coming from the governors, because the governors are now became now like mini presidents. So they also wanted to control the media, and actually they all do control the media. So that is why you will see that now the focus is on the governors as opposed to the devolution and the county government as a whole. It even reached a point where when accessing the county assembly also became a problem to journalists, because there are some county assemblies that actually kicked out. I can point out a case in point was Nakuru, whereby journalists, it was Nakuru and Turkana counties, and so many counties actually, where they barred journalists from accessing county assembly so that journalists can report what these MCAs are doing. And that's actually where we lost it. So I'm hoping that probably now that we are coming in, we are having new governors in some counties. We're also having new MCAs. They are now going probably to do things differently, because the report that we got was that at the beginning, these governors were still trying to probably to get their footing right, see how they can establish systems that they can use to run the counties. Right now, this system has already been put in place. So probably we are now going to see more and enhanced reporting on what the county governments are doing. And I hope that the governors, those who have defended their seats successfully and those who have been elected for the first time, probably they're also going to do things differently so that they do not become threats to press freedom. They will going to allow journalists to do their work so that journalists do not focus on governors alone as the mini president in the counties, but serve the public. Because like Victor has said, governors are expected, and the county governments are also expected to use the media as the bridge between them and the people they are governing.
All right, Victor, do you think that possibly what could we attribute media dropping the ball if what you're saying is true, that at some point, yes, we were covering, giving good coverage to the counties, but at some point we seem to change that shift? Could there be a risk factor, again, given that the reporters that maybe we have in different counties, being a small setup, everybody knows this is a certain reporter, so it becomes almost risky to do something negative for the county because it could also be risky for your life?
Thank you.
And we've seen some journalists actually harassed in that.
Yes,
in that
quite a number. We have so many cases of journalists in almost all these counties being harassed and thrown out. But to me, it's a change of maybe attitude. That is a risk factor, it's true, and quite a number of our colleagues have been harassed simply because of. But to me, is how do we fuse watchdog journalism and development journalism? Because also, if we are going to help some of these counties, it's not just about the corruption, the whatever in the county. It's also setting the agenda for some of these counties to do what they promised to do. So sometimes it might not necessarily be adversarial journalism.
Right.
So I'm not pushing for all the time adversarial journalism where it's always fighting. But journalists can engage with counties in a better way. In fact, in one of the programs we were doing under Media and Devolution program was to train CECs, that's the county executives and county CEOs, on how to engage with the media relations, public speaking, public messaging. That how do we help? Because like I mentioned, you would see the governors in terms of structure. Most of the directors of communication for governors were purely appointees by the governors, and to them they serve the governor, and most of them have gone with the governors. So their main, and they had the budgets. So you'll see that the communication officers that were employed by various counties don't have even any job to do or a budget. So it has been very difficult for them to package CECs and the kind of work that is happening on roads, on farms, on whatever. So to me, is how do we change the shift so that we don't focus so much on governors? Because you see even sometimes people saying, I'm supporting the government so that I get development. So once a governor is doing that, yet he has a budget, he's supposed to be running, then you see a flawed thinking, that this person is still looking at national government as the only source of development in their counties, yet they have their own budgets. There are issues of like local revenue collection. Who cares? Because most of the counties have been presenting it to appear like once the disbursement from treasury delays, then they can't do anything. Yet they continue collecting local taxes from the markets. But whoever checks how these funds are utilized. So to me, if journalists can start, because again, you will see most of our media houses were paying courtesy calls to governors looking for business. County governments were also a major advertiser and source of revenue. Right. So sometimes if our journalists are going to focus on adversarial journalism, then it can be very difficult for them. So to me, they can change focus and start looking, packaging in a way that, because I was listening to one of the interviews in one of the radio stations, and somebody is talking about an MCA. Do people even still know the role of MCAs? Do people know the role of, for example, senators? And the Senate-elect was talking about how it's going to bring roads, how it's going to bring water. And I was wondering, does he understand his role? So we still have room as media to come in. Remember, like parliamentary reporting. Parliamentary reporting was limited to Nairobi because there was only one parliament in Nairobi 4 years ago. So most of our people who know how to report parliamentary procedures, lawmaking, are journalists who are based in Nairobi. How many of us do we see stories from the county assemblies and parliaments about the laws, about structures, and about how things are done. So I think there's big room to improve, to go and do a lot of work.
All right, and it is now 25 minutes to 8 o'clock. This is Kivumbi 2017, and the discussion we're having is the coverage that we have had on county government and possibly what can be improved given that we're getting into the second term. Remember, our question of the day this morning is what impact you have felt. Now that we're getting into the second term of county government, what impact have you felt, if any, on the ground? Do let us know what your thoughts are. We're going to take a short break, but we